Welcome to the Cardinal Report, your weekly 30-minute look inside the world of North Central College athletics. I'm Justin Zipser. After its most successful season in program history, the Ncc football team is back on the Benedetti Worley Field this month for spring practices. This is the groundwork that's being laid for a possible 9th consecutive CCIW Conference Championship. Head coach John Thorne is entering his 13th season as head coach. We hear from the man himself in just a little bit. But as we usually do, let's swing around some other Cardinal athletic programs and check in on their progress. Ncc Softball was the latest team to wrap up its season last weekend. The Cardinals made it all the way to the Division III Super Regionals, the first time that Division III softball postseason has had such a round. In Super Regionals, hosted right here in Naperville at Schanauer Family Field, Ncc matched up against the University of St. Thomas, a team out of Minnesota that the National Fast Pitch Coaches Association says is 13th in the nation. Now, the format for Super Regionals is a best of 3. The winner moves on to Tyler, Texas for D3 Nationals. Game 1 was a back-and-forth affair. The Cardinals forced extra innings with 2 runs in the 7th, but the Tommies pushed across one of their own in the 9th to win the game in walk-off fashion. Game 2 was a must-win situation for North Central, and maybe sensing the urgency, the Cards exploded for a 10-run 4th inning en route to the 12-2 win. Vlastimanja not only pitched to a Game 2 victory, but also drove in 4 runs with a big 3-run homer in the 4th inning. That set up a Game 3 win-or-go-home situation for both the Cardinals and the Tommies. Let's go to the highlight. The University of St. Thomas and North Central College getting back together for a decisive Game 3 of the NCC-hosted D3 Super Regional. After a solid showing in Game 2, Cardinal pitcher Vlastimanja takes the circle in Game 3. She held the Tommies to 1 earned run over 5 innings on Saturday. On Sunday, she's up against UST pitcher Breezy Bannon. But in the 3rd inning, she faces trouble. After an error and 2 walks, the bases are loaded for Emily Gregory, who drove in 3 runs over the course of Saturday's 2 games. Manja charged with a wild pitch here. The ball goes to the backstop, and Mary Rentz comes in the score, 1-0 St. Thomas. The Cardinals also fill up the bases in the bottom of the 3rd for Amanda Walker. Just like the Tommies, NCC scores without the benefit of a hit. Bannon walks her, and Kayla Antle scores. Andrea Starr grabs an RBI fielder's choice moments later, bringing up Carly Trenhale with runners in scoring position. She drives this pitch into right center. Both Walker and Kelsey Haynes score, 4-1 NCC after the 3rd. But the Tommies regroup. Top of the 4th, Mussett leads things off with a single to left field. Next woman up is Brenna Wallach. She gets a sign from head coach John Sheeta before stepping into the box. The sign must have been a home run because this ball leaves the yard in a hurry. Straightaway right field, Wallach's 16th of the season moves her to the top spot on the team in that category, 4-3 NCC. Try as she might, Manja can't get out of the inning without further damage. Later on, Bigglebach on 3rd, Mary Rentz on 2nd, Hoffman at the plate. Second baseman Taylor Ryan up near the circle to play for a possible bunt, but Hoffman bounces the ball right over her head. Both runners in after the bobble and right. St. Thomas takes a 1-run lead. Still top of the 4th, runners at 1st and 2nd for Gregory. Nice scoop by Antle at the hot corner, but the ball dislodged on the tag. Jenna Hoffman rounds 3rd for the score to make it 6-4. Antle is charged with the E5. The Tommies add a few more in the top of the 5th. Rentz lines his pitch right up the middle. The ball takes a weird bounce in center for Walker. 2-run score, and it's 8-4 UST. Bannon scatters 2 hits over her next 4 innings of work. She goes the distance. Walker grounds out to end the game and the season for North Central. 10-4 your final. The Tommies move on to Division III Nationals. Manja ends her North Central pitching career as the all-time leader in innings pitched and wins, and also is 2nd in strikeouts. At the plate, she's 2nd all-time in home runs with 16. Baseball wrapped up its 2014 season a few weekends ago in the CCIW tournament. While the campaign ended a little earlier than the team would have liked, this week's Cardinal Corner focuses on one NCC pitcher that ended his career on a good note. In 2011, John Ratched began his NCC career, transferring in from St. Joseph's College in Indiana. As a 3rd starter, he compiled a 5-1 record, 3 complete games, and led the staff with 42 strikeouts. In 2012, he came out of the gate firing, 4 starts, a 2-1 record, and a 2.59 ERA. Unfortunately, Ratched didn't see any more action that year after a season-ending shoulder injury. But Ratched came back to pitch in 2013, grabbing 5 wins as a starter. This season, Ratched struggled to remain consistent, but provided veteran resiliency in the final game of his career, the 8-3 loss to Illinois Wesleyan that ended NCC's season. After 3 pitchers were roughed up early on, Ratched came on to provide 3 innings of 1-hit ball.
It's all to get here. It's all up for this. So it was, it was a minor setback, but nothing serious, and I'm just glad to be back. So it's hard to see it end, but I'm happy that I was able to be here with him. So
he struggled earlier in the year, but he came up in a big spot, and he pitched well when we needed him to, and that also says a lot about the team that we have here.
Even though the Cards weren't able to win the game and the CCIW tournament, at least Ratched was able to end his career on his own terms. Over to outdoor track and field. Both the men's and women's teams are gearing up for the national meet in Delaware, Ohio. The United States Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association says the women are ranked 15th in the nation. 8 athletes across 9 events will be making the trip to D3 Nationals. Lena Baker is 4th in the nation in the hammer throw, while Ebony Stallworth is 6th in the shot put. Pole vaulters Liz Composto and Brooke Patterson will make the trip together just as they did for the indoor season. Sprinters Madison Renfro and Miranda Rohrer have qualified in the 100-meter hurdles and dash respectively. Nora Ferguson is ranked 7th in Division III in the 1,500-meter run, while Jocelyn Redlinski comes off her All-American finish during the indoor season to close out the outdoor season in the heptathlon. The men barrel into nationals ranked 4th and are sending 10 athletes to Delaware. USTF CCCA Regional Athlete of the Year Johnny Crane will compete in the 10K, where he holds the 2nd fastest Division III time in history, and the 5K, a race he won last year. Joining him in the 10K is Roger Klein, Troy Kelleher, and Travis Morrison. NCC's 4x4 relay team sits 5th in the nation. Deontay Hackler, Mustafa Olaoye, Derek Nelson, and Zach Kirby put up a 3-minute and 12.77 second time at the Drake Relays. Adam Widener will compete in the shot put. Femi Oyewale is in the high jump, and Ryan Root just grabbed a spot in the 3K steeplechase last weekend. Don't go anywhere. More TCR coming right up with Coach John Thorne next on NCTV.
Ready? Oh, come on, Randy. Animal shelter, here I come. And no, I'm not crazy or emotionally damaged. That's a stereotype. I just belong to a total loser. I'm a good dog. So if you want a pet, adopt. And if you see Randy, tell him he dropped his wallet.
Welcome back to the Cardinal Report. We have a very familiar guest joining us to kick off the show, North Central football head coach John Thorne. We always love to see you here. I mean, usually here for the fall in the red zone, but we love to have you here during the spring too. Thanks, Coach.
All right, Justin. Glad to be here.
So, I mean, spring, this is a time where things start to coalesce for the new season, essentially. You got spring practices during this month. So, I mean, for someone who doesn't know too much about spring practice, maybe what its purpose is, considering you also practice in the summer and the fall, what is maybe the most important, maybe 2 most important things from your point of view that you like to see out of your team during spring practices?
Well, in Division III, you can't wear any pads, and you can't really have contact and things like that. So, in fact, when I first started at North Central, you couldn't even have a football. So things have changed slightly, but it's still completely different than what spring practice would be for, an NFL team or a D1 team and so forth. Mm-hmm. So, but lots of great things can happen because you can still teach your offense, you can still teach your defense, you can really work hard on footwork and how to avoid collisions and things like that, which makes them more athletic. We get to do a lot of 7-on-7, so it's a huge help for the defense to be defending a lot of passes. Mm-hmm. But it's really great for the quarterbacks and receivers to get their timing down, and that's what has to come out of that whole thing. So it's been a really exciting spring. These guys are working very hard. They worked really hard in the weight room in the off season, maybe one of the best off seasons we've had in terms of the weight room work. We had 24 seniors that graduated. 20 of them played, a whole bunch. So I think these guys, they just don't want to let things stop, Yeah. So they're really doing some great things, and so we're very, very excited and hope some good things happen in the fall.
Obviously, the ultimate goal is to or I mean, not the ultimate goal, but one of the goals along the way is to win more CCIW championships, continue that amazing trend that you've had over the last near decade, essentially, at this program. What's it going to take to get there again this year? I know it's super early. We don't get too far into the specifics, but I mean, out of what you see out there on the spring practice field at Benedetti Worley, knowing that you've lost so many great men over the offseason, what's it going to take to get back there?
Well, our biggest challenge in the offseason was we had to bring in a lot more offensive linemen and defensive linemen. This last season, by the time we got 2 weeks into the season, we had lost 7 defensive linemen, and we'd lost 3 or 4 offensive linemen. So the linemen last year, what they did for the rest of the team is just impossible to even put into words, because they had to take so many reps. We had to be so careful to try to take hits off their body and all of these things. So that was our big goal. We've got to get more linemen. We call them the real football players anyway. So they'll go out and recruit more real football players, you know, and I think we did that. I think it looks like we're going to have between 12 to 15 offensive linemen coming in. If that depth develops, you know, we have a chance to be really good. And so that's going to be exciting. And we had to get brand new kickers. That was the other thing we had to, because they all, you know, well, only one is back. And so we've got a group of about 4 or 5 kicker punters coming in that have some really great potential. I think some things are starting to fall in place. You know, you got to stay healthy. You know, our depth will not, the first 3 games, we won't have enough depth yet, because some young guys are going to have to develop. And it takes at least those 3 games before they really kind of understand what college football on Saturday really means. And so it's going to be exciting. I'm really excited for the season and for our captains and our leaders. The guys, they're doing a great job in the classroom right now, so we're very happy with them.
I think that's a great point. Where you have a bunch of new players, you can teach them all you can during spring, during summer, you know, before the season, but until they get there out on the field, that is really the only true learning experience you can get there.
Right. It's, you know, you have to be so careful in practice to try and make it safe. They're not getting that full speed football that's going to happen on Saturday when you got a crowd and officials blowing whistles and all that kind of stuff. So that's going to really be fun, you know, and so we'll see what happens.
For sure. More with head coach John Thorne right after this quick break.
Today is Saturday.
60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov.
Welcome back to TCR. Still talking North Central College football with head coach John Thorne. Obviously, the football stuff is great. We love to see the success on the field, but a lot of success off the field for this team as well. So it's been a fantastic winter schedule for the academic term. Tell us a little bit about how the guys did in the classroom.
Well, a senior for us, Alex Mann, was academic All-American, which was a really great thing. And his brother, Peter, had to miss all of last season because of an injury, so he's coming back next year, and his grades are exactly the same. Not only are they twins, everything they do turns out to be almost exactly the same. But the team reached a new high water mark. Our team average GPA for the winter term was 3.1. And that even brought the team cumulative average for every player, all the work they've done at North Central College, up to a 3.0. So that's another thing about this next year group that we're just excited about. I mean, They're totally buying into the philosophy of the program, which is faith is first, family is second, academics is third. And they're really working hard to get those grades, to give themselves opportunities to go after college into a wonderful job. The internships that these guys are doing right now are just really exciting.
And it's always good to see off the field success like North Central has always been able to do. St. Norbert is the first team on the schedule on September 13th, which is, just about 4 months away. You have a lot of time between now, the start of the season. What's the biggest thing that you want to do from a coaching standpoint to get this team ready for just opening game of the season?
Well, there's an awful lot of meetings with coaches that have to happen, between now and the start of the season. It takes a lot of, organization to get everything ready to go. And the biggest thing we would love to have happen between now and the beginning of the season is for our fundraising efforts to get us to the point where we can get the weight room redone and looking much better than it is right now. But in terms of the players, they're sort of on their own in the summer. The NCAA, we're not allowed to coach them in the summer. We're not allowed to watch them do their stuff and so on and so forth. The only thing we can do is if they happen to be in town and they want to come and do lifting, our strength coach can still supervise that to make sure it stays safe and so on. But so it's a big question mark when August comes each year. How many guys are really going to be in shape and ready to play, and how many guys is it going to take a lot of extra work to get them to college football shape before the season starts? So we think this group is going to be the most pleasant surprise of all the teams we've had in all the years added together. I really believe they understand how important it is to be ready to run. The biggest thing is they're already strong enough, but you've got to get the heart and lungs and the legs ready. The hamstring issues and just being out of shape, things really slow down everything you're trying to accomplish to get ready for a long season.
Well, they certainly had a great group to learn from, last year's seniors, and I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about them a little bit. And the season you guys had last year was so fantastic, making it to the national semis. You've had a couple of months to be removed from the end of that season. Any new thoughts, any new revelations coming to mind about how great that season was a couple months removed from it?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. That was a very special class. And I had a really, really wonderful connection with that group. And I was so happy for them, so proud of them, so excited for them. And now watching them find jobs and get excited about the rest of their life and everything, it's even more fun. So we're really pleased with them. There was a great run. And it wasn't without difficulties, and so it was amazing to watch. They come in as freshmen, and you watch them through those 4 years. There's an awful lot of changes that happen. I'd love to have a little video of what they were like as freshmen and then show what they're like as seniors for all of them to look at, because when you're going through those changes you don't even think you're changing, but they matured beautifully. They became fantastic young men. They were great guys when they got here, but they became even greater as they went through North Central College and Cardinal football. So we love them and we're going to miss them.
Yeah, it was fun seeing some of the graduated seniors at spring practice. Saw A.J. Thomas, Josh Fick, Ryan Rizak, those guys coaching along the situation at spring practice. Coach, it's always fantastic to hear from you. We look forward to seeing more of you in the fall, and thanks for coming.
Thanks, Justin. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. We're taking a quick time out. More Cardinal Report coming your way in 30 seconds.
Hi, my name's CJ. A few years ago, my father became seriously ill. I did what I could do before he passed, but it took its toll. I lost my job, my house. I'm getting back on my feet, but I don't know when there'll be food on the table. How'd I do, CJ?
We could be twins.
Well, cousins, maybe.
Play a role in ending hunger. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank.
Welcome back to the Cardinal Report. We have a very special guest joining us on the couch. It's Clark Teuscher, the Sports Information Director at North Central College. We usually see you during the fall, but we love to have you in the spring, too. Thanks for joining us, Clark.
Not a problem. Good to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about what we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks. Baseball, softball wrapping up. We'll start with softball, more the recent team wrapping up last weekend in the Super Regional round. This is a round that was hosted by North Central College. So I guess before we get into the specifics of the softball playing and all that stuff, from your point of view, you have a lot of work to do from a sports information standpoint to get Shanauer Field ready for a regional meet like this. So what kind of work goes into that beforehand, knowing that you're going to get the Super Regional?
Well, anytime you host an NCAA tournament event, it's something that kind of occupies your entire week because you really don't have a whole lot of notice. The Super Regional is a new component to the NCAA softball tournament this year for Division III, and St. Thomas actually was the higher seeded team, but elected not to submit a bid to host the event. So we were more than happy to go ahead and take that on. And having done it as many times as we have, a lot of that stuff is routine as far as working with the administration and facilities and maintenance people to make sure that not only the playing facility was up to standard, but making sure we had enough accommodations for additional fans. We had additional seating that we had to have put in. Make sure we had accommodations for the tournament officials that were coming from the NCAA as well as the umpires, making sure everybody was accommodated that way. Putting protocols in place in terms of what we were going to do in terms of weather, from our own perspective in sports information, making sure we had the proper publicity out there, making sure people knew, how they could buy tickets, how much the tickets were, what times the games were going to be, and then having a postponement like we had on Friday, where we had to push the whole tournament back a day, making sure that information got out so you don't have people coming down from Minnesota expecting softball on Friday and having nowhere to go.
That's just a little taste of what Clark has to go through during some of these meets. The softball team itself, very successful over the last 2 seasons, a lot of good times, a round of 16 consecutive seasons, as you mentioned, Super Regional, first time that's happened this season. General sense, a couple of really good girls will be graduating over the offseason here, but really the program has been good for so long, it's tough to expect that type of greatness out of it every single year, but then again, they come through with it every single year, essentially.
Well, that level of sustained success, it's not, because of any one particular group of players. You have a coach and a philosophy that is something that, endures, and it's bigger than the sport of softball. It's about, how you conduct yourself, in and out of a competitive setting. Losing Vlasta, that's like losing 2 players because you're losing your all-time leader in wins as a pitcher, but also somebody who's in a lot of your top 10 categories as a hitter as well. So that's something that a lot of teams would have to take 2 players to place. And then you have an infielder like Taylor Ryan, who was essentially an extension of the coaching staff on the field. And as we've seen through several other sports, postseason runs, seniors who are effective leaders really are worth their weight in gold, and that's what she was for that team. And seeing what they were able to do once they got into the regional and the postseason, she had a big part in making sure that team stayed together mentally and was ready to go. So while it's only 2 players, you think you certainly can recruit 2 players in a given year. You're not necessarily replacing what they were, you're replacing who they were, and that tends to be the biggest challenge.
All right, moving on to baseball. This is a team that was wrapping up its season just a couple of weekends ago in the CCIW tournament. First time since 2011, I think. So really, this is a team that faced 3 straight elimination games in that tournament to force its way to the championship game against Illinois Wesleyan, showing tons of heart, tons of determination. What does that say about the team and maybe where it's come from the last couple of years to where it is today?
Yeah, that's a team that really relied heavily on its pitching staff. Particularly on his 3 starters that typically filled the conference rotation between Ben Cruz and Chris Singh and Brian Polloway. And 2 of those wound up making the all-conference team. Is certainly a couple of guys that were pretty feared. Ben and Chris were at the top of the rotation, and that's what they did. The first 3 games of that conference tournament, we didn't use a single pitcher out of our bullpen, which is pretty remarkable, in postseason play, not to have to do that. And then we get to the championship round, the last game against Illinois Wesleyan, trying to beat them for the 5th time in a single year, which is extremely difficult to do. And that's pitching breaks down a little bit. You need your offense to step up. You only were able to do it so much, and it kind of got away from them there. So really, kind of a tumultuous end to the regular season. They went into the last weekend of it with a chance to have possibly the number 1 seed in the tournament, winding up in the 4 seed, just by being off on senior day against Carthage in a doubleheader. So to be able to bounce back from that and very nearly earn themselves a spot in the NCAA tournament certainly showed a lot of poise in a lot of pressure situations.
Most definitely. Moving on to men's volleyball. This is a program that we really haven't talked about yet between the time you were on the show last in the Red Zone in the fall, and now that's when the program was announced. Beginning play in 2016, you have a head coach in Kyle Eggsline, a guy who has D3 experience, has D1 experience. From your point of view, how important is that when starting a program from scratch here at the D3 level?
I think it's very important. Not only does Kyle have, the top-level playing experience at one of the best Division I schools in the country, and coaching experience for both men's and women's volleyball at a Division III powerhouse like Carthage. He's also a really, engaging, excitable personality. He's the kind of guy that can get young men excited about playing volleyball at North Central College, and I think that was the biggest thing that made him the number 1 candidate among a large field of qualified people who wanted this job. Is that he's somebody who's really going to be able to recruit effectively and be able to get these guys excited and get them ready to go right away. And he's not trying to ease into anything. He wants to be competitive right away. They're going to compete as a club next year, and he's going to be heavily involved with that. And then they'll transition into varsity competition the following year, and he wants to be competitive within, we're in the process of trying to get into a conference right now. So once that's done, he wants to be competitive within that conference right away.
Cool. We can't wait to see what Coach Eggsline does recruiting-wise. And again, we appreciate you stopping by. Thanks, Clark.
No problem.
We're all out of time. Thanks for watching. As always, you can check out highlights of many NCC athletic programs at youtube.com/North Central Sports. If you're on Twitter, follow @NCC_athletics for all of your Cardinal sports updates. And check out the rest of this season of the Cardinal Report archived in full at nctv17.com. I'm Justin Zipser. See you next time.